So the hands are about to come down, and we'll hear Richard Phelps call it to go.
Attention! Go!
Both crews cleaning away. Both crews onto the American crew was onto the second stroke quicker than the Shrewsbury's crew. But here, both crews cleaning away, straight line. See how they are at the end of the island.
Nothing in it in the first 10-15 strokes. I love that sound though, and you can hear the coxes saying draw. That's encouraging them just to leave the boat, like we were saying. And now they're starting to reach out to get to their full-length strokes. It's quite expensive, that first part of the race, isn't it? Because you've got a lot of work to do to get that whole eight shifting up to race pace.
You've got to move basically 3/4 of a ton from a standing start to as fast as possible, and then after that you need to find a way of losing as little speed as possible as you transition into your race pace. And both crews here pretty level. Shrewsbury seems to be transitioning into something. They're good, nice technical rowing here, very uniform in the way they've finished their stroke off.
Yeah, so we're looking here at the faces of the crew from Princeton National Rowing Association. Really good focus here on all their faces. You see the heads are straight down the boat as they try to get into their rhythm, not trying to be too concerned by exactly where the other crew is. And looks like Shrewsbury maybe got 50 centimetres, maybe a metre up at this stage, but it's really hard to tell from our cats slightly behind these crews as we're alongside with the catamaran camera.
It looks a little bit like the American crew maybe starting to inch through a little bit. You can just see the Shrewsbury crew, well, both crews to be honest, when the blades are about to go in the water, the stern is going backwards a little bit, and that's a little bit inefficient, and that's the hardest thing to get right when the transition is to make sure that is flowing.
And there's the blade work of the Shrewsbury crew. We're also looking for that to be in unison, but also efficient, as you say. There's sort of a sense that they're kicking the boat back a little bit at this point.
Yeah, that's the whole thing about you want to apply a lot of force on the stretcher because that's what moves the boat. But if you haven't put the blades in before that, the stern gets pushed backwards in the boat.
Right, so it's tempting to think with rowing that it's all about the power you apply, but one of the things that's easy to neglect, it's about not slowing the boat down, because as all of those bodies move forward, they slide forward with a sliding seat, or slide backwards actually, as it is, forward for the athlete, but backwards for the boat. All that weight goes back and it makes the boat dig down and decelerate if you don't get it right.
Yeah, the boat weighs about, they've been warned here, the American crew's been warned from Princeton to move across, and the cox has done what they're supposed to do, is make a really obvious steer to make sure the umpire realises they've been listened to. But here it's about, maybe it looks maybe a third to half a length difference between the two crews.
Pretty good race unfolding, Adrian, isn't it?
Really good, really good. And again, it's still a long way to go. So if you go into a rhythm here, it depends how expensive it was to get that half a length.
It looked pretty close to me though, don't they? Yours are pretty close. It's a deceptive angle, but I think Princeton are pushing it. Gabrielle Zamet in the Cox's seat is pretty experienced. Cox, the U.S.A. Junior Men's 8 at the Under-19 World Rowing Championships, and got 5th place at the U.S. Rowing Championships, but they are across, and there's danger here. Early this afternoon we saw a disqualification, so they want to be mindful of that.
Yeah, and also every time the rudder's been put on to try and fix that, again, it's a break, and it takes some of the momentum off the boat, so you really want to be using the rudder as little as possible.
The other thing people might not realise is at Henley here we race against the stream, so the river is flowing, albeit somewhat gently, from left to right in our picture. So actually, this point in the race, there's probably more advantage to be slightly closer to the camera, slightly closer to this side. Maybe there's not too much stream at this point.
Yeah, you want to be, that's the thing, is that the middle it's a bit harder, isn't it? But that's when you know, as a tactically, the point of the race where you need to be more aggressive and stay in touch. And the Americans are moving away. Every now and then Shrewsbury holds, but it just feels the momentum is slightly with the US crew.
So this is what Adrian was saying at the start, basically, that there comes a point in the race where you have to kind of decide to go. I think what you've seen is the base speed of Princeton is a bit stronger. They've just been pushing through stroke by stroke, gaining 5 centimetres, 10 centimetres per stroke, pretty relentlessly. So in the Shrewsbury's crew, what's the response? What are we going to be?
I think for Shrewsbury, I know there's a long way to go for 3 minutes, but they need to make a decision now, just as if the finish line was 300 metres away, and just go now to be on turn. Otherwise, if they wait and have a glory finish, it's all too late.
So we're looking down to the finish line. You can see it ahead of us, just with Henley Church on the horizon. I mean, this view tells you why crews want to come to Henley. This is why the regatta is world famous, and it's kitchen sink time now for Shrewsbury School. They've got to give it everything. They're trying to stay in contact. It looks to me like they have held Princeton for a moment, but there's not much of the track left for them to recover that one-length deficit.
And they have done a great job of keeping that contact for as long as they can. I guess the question is, how much of an effort was that requiring? And because the American crew just watching them and waiting, and it seems here as the effort from Shrewsbury is not being as effective, the American crew starting to inch away gradually.
Yeah, I like the way that the Princeton crew is rowing. It's pretty relentless, isn't it? As Henley Church looks down, as it has done throughout the history of this regatta since 1839, looks down on these two crews competing to go through the round of the Princess Elizabeth Challenge Cup. On the left of the picture, Princeton in their white and red singlets. Well, they've actually just eased out a little bit further, haven't they, in the last minute or so?
And Shrewsbury still keeping their form. It's easy to start rowing badly when you're down like this. You still need to keep faith and attack it. But like you said, just the ability now is, as the both crews are getting tired, the Princeton crew just seems to have a bit more run on the boat in between each stroke, and the boat's travelling a bit further each stroke, and that's giving them just sort of opening margin, really.
So we've got the benefit of real expert eyes here from Adrian, and you can see that. Look at the oars moving in synchronicity. They're sort of pushing on now a bit, aren't they, Princeton? Probably perhaps practicing their sort of sprint finish, which they might need to deploy more urgently another day. And you mentioned the communication between Natalia Toms in the coxswain seat and Toby Moore at stroke. They'll probably be having a little bit of a word about how to do this, and the coxswain saying, let's practice our sprint.
Yeah, and she can't actually see properly without turning around very much, so the stroke man will be able to see Shrewsbury and will be saying to her, I feel comfortable, or I should need to keep pushing on. And Shrewsbury will be putting everything into this now to come back on terms. And it seems the way that in the American crew from Princeton, if they just keep their form, like you said, and their synchronicity, they're very good at releasing the boat at the same time. It's going to take them through to the finish line.
And Natalia in the coxswain seat has appeared already twice at Henley Regatta, I think, and several of the crew here from Princeton have been in the regatta before. So we're delighted to welcome so many US crews and 27 other nations to Henley Regatta this year in our record-breaking biggest ever regatta. Princeton approaching the line. Well, that's been a nice performance for them. They're going to be pretty pleased with that as a first time down the track at Henley, getting the nerves out, getting the pipes open as they cross the line ahead of Shrewsbury, who had a good push in the middle there, didn't they, Adrian, to try and stay on terms, but they just couldn't contain the power.
Yeah, I think they rode well and attacked the race and were brave when they were losing the overlap, but they were just unfortunately beaten by a crew that was quicker than them today.
Exactly. So the Princess Elizabeth Challenge Cup, Princeton lived to fight another day. Shrewsbury, commiserations to them, and it's a victory for Princeton.